Okay. So under the TLC 101 modules for you, like I said, we have the basics of navigating Canvas, which you should all be fine with. But if you have questions about this, this is what Michi and I are here for. Creating our modules, adding rubrics. And this is one of these things, in addition to engagement for in-class and those additional 5 assessments that we need to design for each of our courses, that I think we see a lot of inconsistencies across instructors' Canvas courses, and it's something that we'd really like to make sure everybody has all the information they need to set it up for summer. So in-class engagement, if we go ahead and look under the modules as a reference here, this is the rubric that you should have for your engagement group. 20% usually for most of your courses when it comes to how students are showing up for us in the classroom, right? That's why it's in-class engagement. And this is the same standardized rubric that everybody should have across all courses. For those who have been with us for a little while, you'll remember that we used to talk about participation, and we at a point decided to change that terminology to engagement because the way that students show up for a course can look different depending on different learning needs, challenges, etc. And of course, one sort of rule can't be consistently applied across all courses. So for students who are in Shorty's Japanese language class, how much they speak in class is much more important, perhaps, than a Japanese history class where maybe students are doing a lot of independent work. And it becomes who has done the reading and how does that show up in their papers that really contributes to their engagement score. So we're differentiating like the learning experience here, right? When we talk about engagement, of course, it's going to look different. But this rubric should be exactly the same for in-class engagement across all other courses. For Shorty's Japanese language class, it looks just a little bit different for that reason. So if this is not the rubric that you currently have, please email Michi today, tomorrow at the latest, because we're publishing the courses at 9 a.m. for orientation for summer block 1 tomorrow. And she can re-import this with the correct rubric for you. For our summer courses, this is across 6 weeks. So weeks 1 and 2 are combined because that first class session or the first 2 class sessions for Japanese language classes happen in the add drop period. And so we can and should be giving students just a little bit of leeway in terms of engagement for the first class, which is why we combine it with week 2 as well, because some students may be moving in and out of your classes within that first week. Just as a reminder, add drop is always first Friday for a 6-week program. Something that students have been a little bit confused about, and so Michi and I will do a little bit better job about communicating this to them in orientation this summer, is what happens with their attendance and their engagement. How does that factor into the grade? You know, why does it look different in some courses versus others? Well, the first thing that we tell them always is that every human is different, yeah? So your teaching style is going to be different. The way that you grade, it can't be 100% objective, but this rubric, and I love the way that Adam phrased it in the last meeting that we have, is illustrative, not exhaustive. So I'm going to borrow that from you from now on, Adam, hopefully with your blessing. But it should just give students a really basic idea of how they can earn themselves engagement points. So from a US context, a lot of students come into programs thinking that they start out with 100 and then they're docked points for bad behavior. No. Instead, we think that they start at 0 and then they earn those points as they go on. So students sometimes occasionally do need to be reminded that just because we feel a little bit like a US bubble doesn't mean that we are a US university campus, but we also have some level of familiarity with what it's like on a US university campus in different respects, right, as instructors and as staff. So in the interest of fairness across all courses, this engagement for in-class participation, engagement should look exactly the same. So if a student is showing up, if they are Listening. What listening looks like can be different for different students, right? If you have students who have academic accommodations or they have special situations, they explain to you in the first 2 weeks, they say, hey, listen, you might see me doodling and things while you're lecturing, but this actually helps me concentrate. That's fine. That's beautiful. We want them to communicate that to you, and they shouldn't be losing points for that. The way that everybody pays attention looks different. That's okay. But what we don't want is them watching the Super Bowl in the back of the classroom or playing games on their computer or texting their friends on their phone. So if you see that sort of behavior, of course, the engagement is not going to look great for them for that particular class period. But the way that it's breaking down across those 5 weekly engagement, I'm losing my words here. Those 5 different weeks, right, for engagement, weeks 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, approximates to about 33 points of engagement for a daily class session. And so you'll take a look at this rubric and then you'll apply those points accordingly. One of the most important things that I just want to remind everybody of in terms of this weekly in-class engagement score is it should always, always, always be updated by Friday for the week and posted for students. And if you've seen behaviors in the class that should be addressed or that the students should be aware of so that they're not so that they can gain the maximum amount of points that they should be gaining for engagement for a given week, I really, really, really need you to write that in the speed grader feedback. It doesn't have to be like 10 paragraphs, but it can say, hey, look, I noticed you're on your phone a lot. But please be reminded that, per CIEE Code of Conduct, we shouldn't be on our phones in the class. And that's why it's impacted your engagement score. If you have questions, visit me during an office hour. So that should wrap up engagement unless we have any questions about this, and then we can move on to those individual engagement assessments. Okay, very good. So, like I said, if you don't have this particular rubric, please let Michi know by the end of today so she can get the correct one imported for you. And if you're not sure, this is in TLC 101 in the module, so you can check it against what you've got in your Canvas and it should be matching. All right. Now, when it comes to engagement activities, of course, we have the weekly, right? But then we also should have a minimum of 5 engagement activities for the duration of the course that can allow students who maybe not be as verbally participatory in class to still be earning engagement and be able to be absent if they're sick a few times without it significantly impacting their grade. And one of the reasons we do this is because, exactly for that reason, if a student is sick, they can still do this activity. And while they don't get engagement points for not being in the class, because if they're not there, they're absent. If they're not there, they're not getting in-class engagement for that day. This is a way that they can cover for that. So when we explain engagement to students in the first day, in the first couple of classes, this is the way that we should be explaining these activities to them. They're there as a buffer for your grades so that you don't lose too many points in case you've been sick. But if you are sick, you can still be keeping up and you can still be earning those points towards your engagement for the overall 20% that it usually encompasses for a given course. So these can be in class, but they can also be, and a few should be online. They should not all be the same exact thing. And they should all be scored on a 100-point scale. So we've also noticed that there's quite a few activities. And I know for a lot of you, when you have many, many, many students and you're teaching 2 or 3 courses at any given point in a term, it can be really challenging to keep up with the grading. But CIEE policy really makes it important that we need to be grading and returning the grades for any assessment to a student within 2 class periods of the due date. So if a student turns in something on Monday, by the end of day Thursday, they really need to be given back that score. We have a lot of students who had anxiety over this in the springtime because they said, oh, my teacher's not posting my scores. And we'll go over how to do that in just a minute, just as a refresher, because sometimes they're automatic, sometimes they're manual, sometimes when you've inherited a course, that can impact the way that grades are displaying to students. But this is another way for students to really understand what your expectation is of them so that they can progress through the term understanding, oh, okay, I got a really poor score on this. This is not what my instructor wanted from me. Here's the rich feedback in the speed grader. Here's how this breaks down in a rubric. Here's where I earned points. Here's where I didn't. And so that they have less complaints for you and they feel less of an impulse to come running to Michi and me to say, my teacher didn't post a rubric. My teacher isn't posting the grades. I have no idea how I'm doing this course. I'm worried I'm going to fail. We had a slew of them in spring. So this is also another way that we can give feedback to students on a small scale, on a points scale, so that they understand how it's contributing to a grade rather than check you turned it in, X you didn't turn it in. So I'd like to ask you if you have that sort of grade scale for an engagement assessment in this category or for any other assessment, could be a reading journal, could be a vlog, could be anything you have. We'd like you to take them off that check X and put them on a 100-point scale with a rubric so students can better understand what's happening there with their grades. If you have a significant amount of these and they're contributing towards an engagement score, whether that be the weekly in class or whether that be this, a particular activity where students are expected to turn something in as a Word document, as a PowerPoint, as an in-class verbal presentation, whatever it may be that you have for them. You can simply have it as something that they don't turn in for a grade in the settings in your assignments. And what that would look like, let me just pull somebody's example up here. We're not going to name and shame, so just pretend that you're not seeing who this is. But I'm just going to pull up a random course here and we're just going to go into the grades and we're going to look. I'm sorry, Christina, it happened to be you. But if you have a lot of these assessments that are check or X, you can simply go in here and say, oh, okay, maybe I have 10 of these. It kind of looks like busy work to students at a certain point, right? And we can edit this assignment. And we can come down here to the options for grading. So if you want it to be graded, that's okay. But if you don't want it to be graded, you can simply turn this off and save it. And there are a lot of different ways that we can set up assessments for grading. And then there are also other ways that we can set up assessments for students who have a little bit of extra work due to absence because they've been ill and they've proved it. Or we can assign things to different groups and things like that. And if you need assistance with going through how to do this one-on-one, we can absolutely set up a time to do that. But all this to say, if you have a lot of assessments that are like this, you might just consider unchecking that graded aspect and they can still turn something in and not have it be graded. And you can count that towards their in-class engagement score for the week so that it doesn't look like when you're populating your grade book here that they have busy work, that they have a lot of these assessments. Oops, I'm sorry, I meant to go to grades. That look like they don't have a 100-point scale grade system so that students just get a better understanding of where they stand in terms of their numeric grade, because they will ask. And so again, just as a reminder to all of you, students should not be told and shouldn't see their total score for a given course, but you should be posting individual grades for students. This includes the final exam. I think sometimes it might be misunderstood, and perhaps Michi and I can also communicate this a little bit better to you when it comes to posting grades in Canvas. Students should be able to see these. So when you are setting up a new assessment or when you are editing an assessment that you've inherited from a previous course, whether it's yours or somebody else's materials that are in your current Canvas course, we want to make sure that the grades are entered as points, not as a percentage. And we also want to make sure that the grade posting policy is set for manual, not automatic. So this is going to be another really important thing. You can change this once you've set up your entire course for every single assessment at once, rather than going in one by one to edit this. If it's simpler for you, by simply editing the grade posting policy for the whole course. but we want it to be manual. And this is for a few reasons. When we are grading students and we're going down the list, right? And we're looking at all these assignments. We're going through the speed grader. We're seeing them one by one. Okay, this student, oh, okay, great, excellent. Wow, they did really good work here. It's 100 out of 100. 5 more students in, and you're like, oh, this was 100 out of 100. That last one, when it compares to this one, actually really wasn't 100 out of 100. Let me go back and tweak that grade. If you have a grade posting policy where the grades are posted automatically, as soon as you enter that numerical score, the student is emailed by Canvas and they are told what the grade is. If you go back in on an automatically posted grade and you adjust it as you're going down this list, they will see that you have adjusted the score. And this is where a lot of students' complaints come in about, oh, this teacher is just grading off their feelings. So to make it simpler on you, and to prevent this sort of complaint from students, manual grades. Then once you have them all in, every student has been graded, then you're going to open up and post the grades for that assignment. So what that will look like is, and we'll just, let me find a course rather that doesn't have the grade posted yet. You're all seeing behind the curtain now and how we do it when we take a look at all of your Canvas courses. Let's pick on somebody else. I'm going to pick on you, Shorty. So when we go in here and we take a look, any assignment, oh, our students haven't been put in it. So this is something else I should mention really quickly. This is outside of our training for today. We've been having some IT issues where the incorrect number of students and sometimes the incorrect students have been in your courses for this summer. IT is not quite sure why it's happened, but if that's the case, don't panic. It'll be corrected by tomorrow. So instead, let's just go back to spring.
Canvas was recently hacked.
It was also recently hacked,
Yeah.
but this was before the hacking.
Oh.
Oh,
All right.
I could have seen the names last week at least.
Okay, very good. All right, so let's just pretend. Let's just pretend for a minute that they haven't been posted. So
Okay.
when you're grading students and you've got down your entire list here, there should be this little I mark with a cross through it. That means students can't see it. You've not opened it for them to be delivered their grade email. Oh, the grade's been posted. You've got 100. Great, wonderful. Once you've got through this whole list, you're going to then post the grades. And once you do that, it posts to every single student at once. And you want it to be everyone. The only time you would select graded is in an instance where we have already been in communication about a student who perhaps has accommodations, whether that's from the start of term and their academic accommodations, or it's accommodations granted to the student upon agreement due to illness, where you've not given them a grade yet, but everybody else really needs to have that grade back. That's the only instance wherein you would choose graded other than everyone. And then you would post these scores for those students. So once you start putting grades in, it will automatically hide them. So if you don't see it from the very start, don't panic. It's okay. But once you put in that first 100, for example, as you're going down the list and grading students, it will show the I mark with the little cross through it. And that way you'll know, okay, good. These grades are not being automatically posted and sent to students. But you do need to do that little extra step and post them. And like I said, within 2 class periods of the due date. Any questions about this so far? We're all doing okay. All right. Excellent.
Okay, can I ask something? Sorry.
Yes, Christina.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So just so I understand, we have to do both. Put it into change from automatically to manual, plus we hide it here on the grade.
So It'll be automatic once you've adjusted that setting for your
Okay, okay.
course. So there are settings that you come in here and check so that, students can see the announcements, so that they can edit things that they've posted. There's lots of things that are automatically set for you in here. But when it comes to your assignments, and we're going to go over this too in just a minute. Sorry, I meant to go into grades. When we're in the grade book, there's a settings wheel here, right? I'll just show you that again. So when you're in the grade book, up in the right top in your browser, there's like a little cog, a little wheel here that has your grade posting policy. This should be set to manual. Then you don't have to touch everything individually as you go through. And so let's just make sure that this is turned on manual and apply the settings for each of your summer courses. That way you don't have to worry about it. But if you are worried about it and you want to just check on a given assignment that you've posted for students but nobody's submitted anything yet, well, let's just pretend nobody submitted any scores for this yet. Then you're going to make sure that the grades are entered as points and the grade posting policy is set to manual. That's what we want. So you can check it this way, but the best thing to do for your entire gradebook once all of your assignments are set up is to just go in here and make sure they're all set to manually post grades. And then once you've entered all of these scores, you're going to go in and going to post the grades for the students. Okay. If at any point in the semester you're worried about how things are playing out, feel free to send us a message. I can check it for you. Michi can check it for you. Just want to make sure that we're sort of minimizing some of the things that we heard from students as complaints in the spring semester, because it was a lot of students. It was a lot of classes for everybody. There were a lot of sort of special circumstances that we came across that we'd never seen or heard before. And so we just thought it would be good to make sure that everybody has got their grade books set up according to how CIE wants us to do it. So now that we've gone over that just a little bit, let's talk about, let's move this out of my way. Let's talk about our assignments and how we're setting them up in Canvas. So there are a few things that I'd like to point out here. One is that we should have at least 5 different types of assessment groups. And this is per the CIEE policy too. So that no one category is weighted so greatly that if students were to tank it, they would fail the course, right? So we have engagement, of course, our weekly engagement for weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And just again, if you don't have the right rubric, please let me know today. We also have roll call attendance. To be honest, this can sit anywhere, but usually the best thing to do is just throw it in weekly engagement, even though it's not graded, because it factors into the day-to-day of your course, yeah? And then we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is beautiful. This is exactly what it should look like under engagement. Those 5 other types of assessment that are diversified, but students can also complete them, right? And it sits under this 20% category for engagement for the course. Then we have homework, quizzes, oral quizzes, final exam. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is exactly what we want. If you see imported assignments down here, don't worry about it. You can simply delete it if you're worried about it affecting your grade book. But if it says 0%, it's not impacting anything. Just throw anything down there that you don't want to be graded or you don't want to publish, but you don't want to delete if you have that. All right, so we've got 5 of these. So we've got 25%, 15%, 20, 20, and 20. Does it equal 100? Yes. But if you're not sure and you're not a math person like me and you don't want to whip out that calculator, the assignment group's weight is here to help you ensure that your grade book is balanced properly. So Canvas is calculating everything for you and you don't need a calculator. It's beautiful. It's built in. This is exactly what we want it to be like. So we want to make sure that it totals out to 100. We've got our 5 categories in here. It's okay if you've got more than 5, but we need a minimum of 5. And that no one category is weighted more than 30%. So if you've got a final exam, 25% is totally reasonable, especially if for a course such as the language course, there's a written component and an oral component. So no individual assessment is worth more than 30%. And this is the case for every single, not just group, but individual assignment that you have in your course. So if you have, for instance, right now, a final exam that's worth 40% of the student's grade and it's one written exam, that's something that will need to weight differently. You'll need to reduce that a little bit. And if you need a little bit of assistance with that, or you want to talk about what that would look like, I'm very, very happy to chat to you about it. We can have an appointment and talk about it one-on-one to see what it looks like for your individual course. But that's part one. Part two of this is you need to make sure that in your syllabus, everything is weighted the same as it is when you get in here. So a few courses we noticed in spring, what happened was this breakdown that you've written out in your syllabus with the percentages for all of these categories, for some courses, did not match the reality. And students had pointed that out as well. So again, this can happen for a number of reasons. Sometimes you just don't hit save when you're editing things. That's okay. But please just give this a double check. You can open up your windows side by side. I would do that for you, but then I'll lose my screen share ability. You'll only see one. But we just want to make sure, okay, final exam is worth 25% and it's called final exam. And we're going to come down here and it says final exam and it's worth 25%. So this is a way you can easily, quickly check that. If you're finding when you go into your grade book, and this happened to a few instructors as well, they say, oh my gosh, these grades look skewed. They look totally imbalanced. Why is it showing 120% in this category? That is way too much. It's overinflated. What probably happened was one of these individual assignments was given a percentage instead of a point score, or something was imbalanced. You had 100, 120, 50, 75, something like that can throw it off as well. Or occasionally you'll have something that just wasn't set up with points at all, and it's been a zero, and you've entered points into your gradebook. So when you're setting up your individual assessments too, you can check it here. And you can also go in and edit your assignments individually, yeah. And this is where you want to add your rubrics. And you can also check and make sure how many points under what category and how it's displayed in your grade book, or whether you don't want to count it towards the final grade so that they can still turn something in, but it won't appear in your grade book and it won't throw off the balance. So this is one of those other really important aspects where you can give a nice triple check and make sure that everything is set up so that your grade book doesn't get thrown off. So 5 categories, things that are weighted by 100 points, and you can just check it all in a bird's eye view here when you go into your assignments. The percentages and the categories should match what you have written in your syllabus. Nothing in terms of a category or individual assignment on its own should be worth more than 30% of a total score. And if it's something like a final exam, if it's worth 30%, you really need to have multiple components to that, right? And then once we've actually gone in here and we've seen all this, we still see something wrong with our grade book. Okay, what's the assignment? Go into that individual assignment, and then you're going to edit, and you're just going to give a double check here. Is it graded? How many points? For quizzes, discussion boards, and other types of assignments that require a file upload, it might look a little bit different. So if you need help with that, again, we can help you one-on-one to make sure that those are set up correctly. And if you have any concerns once you've gone over this in your gradebook, let me and Michi know, and we can also go in and give a double check. If you're already partway through the term and you've noticed that something is not quite right, send us an email with a screenshot of what you're seeing. And that way we can go in and we can better address a solution to whatever issue you're experiencing with Canvas. And sometimes it's not you and it's not something that we can solve. And sometimes IT needs to solve it for us. So we'll handle that for you as well in case it's something that's bigger than all of us. Any questions on this so far? Good? Fantastic. Okay, so roll call attendance, especially for those who have been teaching the same course for some time, you might have an incorrect roll call attendance in your course, because attendance a long time ago used to be graded, but no longer. And so we would like you to make sure when you click on roll call attendance, please select edit and make sure that it's a 0 point and it's not graded under your weekly engagement score, and that you've saved it and it applies to everyone. If these are not the settings that you see, go ahead and edit those. And if you can't remember what it's supposed to be, just ping Michi and we can go in and we can get this cleared up for you. And then from now on until forever, or at least until CIE decides to change it again, it'll be correct when it's uploaded for you and imported into a course that you hopefully will teach again for us in the future. Okay. All right, any questions about this? Excellent. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about the last few things that are important here. Attendance, of course. At the start of class, we always advise at the start of class that you take an initial roll call. Now, the way that attendance plays out, as a reminder to you all, this has also changed a few times in terms of CIEE policy and exactly how many how many absences students accrue before an automatic failure. For every class that's not a language class, the answer is 4. If they've been absent 4 times, they are on the cusp. If they have one more absence, they will fail that class no matter what happens. And it doesn't matter what the circumstance is, because if they have missed more than 20% of their classes, which is 25% when we calculate it this way, they have not earned their credits. It's an extremely generous policy when you think about it, because when we only have 16 class sessions, if they are missing 5 of those classes, it's really like they've missed 10 classes of a semester, of a full semester course, because each open campus or summer AMJ block 6-week, 2.5 hours, 3 days a week class, it's technically equivalent to 2 class sessions in a full semester program. I don't know any university in the US that would permit a student to miss 10 classes and still pass it. I've never been to that university. I've never heard of it. I've not been out of school for all that many years, if 10 is not all that many years, but no. Usually it's 2. And I used to tell students in orientation, yeah, when I was in graduate school, I had a baby and I went back 2 days later. Because if I didn't, I wouldn't have passed my graduate program. And that's the truth. And that's the truth. But they don't care, right? They don't care about that and they don't see it that way. So really what we try to do is just explain to them that every class is really worth 2 class sessions. So when you break it down, it's quite generous. And a lot of their universities actually wish we were stricter on this policy. But we had a couple of comments in spring where students said there should be an attendance policy. There shouldn't be an attendance policy. It's just study abroad. Why do I need to go to class if I can still pass it? And this is the one that I want to talk about with you now. If a student can still pass your class with significant absences and still get an A, the way we set up our classes should be looked at. So we should revise the way that we're doing assessments. We should revise what we're doing in class and the way that students are earning their engagement points, right? A student should not be able to pass your class with anything more than a C if they've had the maximum number of allowed absences. It just shouldn't be possible. You've got to go to learn. And if they don't have to go, it means they could have watched a YouTube video, they could have done an online asynchronous course and run it through ChatGPT. That's not earning your education. That's not earning your credits. And so yes, at the end of the day, we're a study abroad program. We have students here for a number of reasons. They don't always take it as academically seriously when it comes to these 6-week programs, but I can't promise you, but I'm hoping that our summer group will be much better because they're more Japan focused and more excited to be here for the classes, not just for Kyoto. But all this to say, we don't need to be overly strict. We don't need to teach to the Yale crowd, although we have quite a few of them this summer. But we do need to make sure that what students are doing is is earning them their credits, because at the end of the day, they are here for earning their college credits. It's still study abroad. Yeah. So if students are concerned about their grades because they've been excessively absent, good, they should be. And when we go in and we do those little grade book sweeps in week 3 to flag any students who may be struggling, we also really want you to assist us in pointing out those who have been excessively absent. So once a student has missed 3 absences in any class, content or language, 3 absences, please email Michi to let her know so that she can send out the attendance warning to just remind the students of the policy. In the past, students have been kind of scared about this and worried that we're going to tell their home schools and stuff. But really all it is a first check-in to say, hey, do you remember from orientation we told you 4 is the limit, and once you cross that threshold, it's failure at 5. Right? For language classes, it's failure at 6 because it's a 60-hour course. If they have questions about this, if they have problems with it, remind them that they can review all those policies in their student academic manual, which lives on your homepage of your course right here. There it is. Right under the title of every single course. It's fully accessible to every single student right here. If you don't have this, or if you end up clicking on it and the link is broken, let Michi know so she can upload the correct one and link that file for you. If you have any other broken links in your course, we would really love you to check on them by going in to view them as a student and just click on everything that's a hyperlink. If anything's broken, it probably means some contents were imported from a previous course, but the file wasn't, or the link is still linked to a course in the past. So it needs to be updated. If that's the case, you can simply go in and revise that link. So let's pretend this gave us a broken link and it said, oh, missing, I can't find it. It's not where it's supposed to be. That's okay. We're just going to go in and we're going to give a little edit. And Michi is so good and so wonderful about setting up these beautiful home pages for everybody so that they look the same for students. Thank you so much, Michi, for all the work that you do for this. But because we have so many courses, Michi needs your help a little bit to just make sure that all of this looks good. So if you found a broken link, when you've edited this, you can just look in the link options and you can simply delete what was broken and paste in the correct one. And it's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. And then you'll save it and you'll go back and you'll test it again. So one more time, in case you have found a broken link, let's pretend it's this one. It went nowhere when you looked at it as a student. You'll go back in as a teacher to edit whatever page it is. And then you're just going to tap on it and choose the link options. And you're going to get rid of whatever was broken. And you're going to put the correct one in here and hit done. And then you're going to save it. I won't because this is somebody else's course and I don't want to mess it up. But just in case
I
you
have a
have
question regarding this. So it's the first time for me to do the class and to use Canvas also. So I did the module 1, 3, 4, and part of number 2, if I remember properly the number. I stopped where I have to deal with the syllabus because I think I have to, as it's the first time, confirm everything with you first. Right. And then I am the one uploading everything, or you are?
And then that's for you to upload after we've confirmed it between us. Yes.
Okay. And so at the moment, so the syllabus was not uploaded and the CIE academic manual link is not working. So is it because it's not uploaded yet, or is it something I can correct, for example, right now?
You can go ahead and correct it now, but because the academic manual for students is something that is better if Michi uploads to your files. If you could send Michi an email and just let her know you need the academic manual reloaded. And then the syllabus, when you come over here to syllabus, may or may not already have something here. And that's okay. Don't worry about the formatting, is what I will say. The most important thing is that the contents are in it. So whether it's blank, whether or not there's something here, you'll just go into edit. If there's nothing, you'll just copy and paste. from the syllabus that you already have, right, from CIE. And then you can go in here and you can edit. And like I said, formatting is not important. We can always zhuzh those things a little bit later. But what the most important things are is that you have all of the weekly descriptions in here with the readings, things like that. You know, if there's no class because there's a holiday, and we have the holiday schedule already in the academic calendar, so you should know when those are, but let us know if you have questions. When the co-curriculars are, and you don't have to put all that detail in your syllabus. You also don't have to put all the instructions for that in the syllabus, but then they do have to live in the modules and in your announcements, right? So once you've got all that in there, it's great if you can also put all of the readings and things like that at the end, and then you'll update it, right? And then you will download this and make it a PDF, and you will link it here. So you also need to upload the finalized PDF here. And all you need to do that is when you're in this page, you click on this, and then you're going to upload a file. So make sure it's highlighted. And then you're going to upload a document, and you're just going to drag and drop that syllabus PDF right in here. You're going to give it a minute. It's going to do a little flashing light to show you that it's already uploaded there, and then you're going to update it. And then it will turn into a hyperlink. So when students click it, it'll just, boom, download the syllabus PDF to their computers.
Okay.
If you want to make any changes, sometimes the co-curricular changes because it's bad weather and we can't go outside and we need to reschedule or something like that. It's okay. Don't touch the syllabus. Leave it as it is. Instead, we want to go to the announcements, and we're going to make announcements about it. Adam does something wonderful that I love. At the start of every term, he makes all the announcements and schedules them for the appropriate dates so that, you know, he's ensured that they're all in there. Students are going to get the information when they need it. Thank you so much, Adam, for being our wonderful example for this. I know a lot of the rest of you do it too, but I'm just going to highlight Adam's efforts for the moment. So you will put your co-curriculars here. And you can announce them all at the start of the term. And I love that she already does this. And then you can make additional announcements as a reminder to students. So this way they know, because students will say, oh, I didn't know I had a co-curricular during class on that day and my mom's visiting. I'm sorry, Mom. You're just going to have to do something on your own for the day. Students, if they don't go to a co-curricular, are not allowed to do the assignment. They are not allowed. And the reason is a couple of reasons. One, they love to skip them to go do stuff on their own. Okay, fine. But then you're absent and then you don't get to do the assignment. Two, it's really unfair to everybody else who did it. It's really unfair. Three, if you have designed a co-curricular activity that somebody can just go and do on their own, it might be good to rethink the type of assignment you're asking them to do, because even if they can do it on their own, they shouldn't be able to do it and do the assignment on their own. Christina did a fabulous thing. Shout out to Christina for spring semester, where she had a co-curricular where she brought her students to karaoke. It was a group activity because they were meant to observe each other in a group setting and then created the assessment based on that. So yeah, anybody can do karaoke on their own, but that wasn't the point. So when we're designing these assessments for co-curricular activities, we should, by necessity, make it difficult or impossible for a student to do it without us and without their classmates. If a student has missed a co-curricular activity because they've been sick or there's some other sort of extenuating circumstance, and let's say we've asked them to go to like Toei Studio Park and do some field work or a scavenger hunt or something like that, we can make an exception, but we need to reevaluate the way that we're asking them to do the assessment for an individually assessed assignment rather than what we've asked students to go there and do with us on their own. If they have missed something that's a one-time opportunity, it's a a gallery and the exhibit is the last day and we're going on the last day and then it's gone and it's done and they can't do it, then I'm sorry, they can't do it. Then we need to find something completely different for them to do that fulfills the same learning objectives. So in that instance, maybe we find something that's comparable, but it's a different type of gallery exhibit that they can go and then do on their own, and then do a very similar, if not the same assignment, just looking a little bit differently. The reason I say that students need both of our permission for this is because then I am asking you to do extra work on behalf of somebody because they didn't fulfill their responsibilities as a student, which is really unfair, not only to other students, but also to you. Because then this also impacts how you are grading on a 6-week schedule. You are busy, you have other things that need to get done, and you will then be asked to create a totally new assessment from scratch. And that is an additional burden that's not necessarily outlined in your contract. So for the most part, I will say no. If a student is absent due to personal travel, they never get any academic accommodations. None, zero, end of story. That's a CIEE policy and we can all stand behind it. So if a student says, oh, my mom's going to be here, I'm going to miss the bento making co-curricular. Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that it's our most popular one. It's really, really fun. I hope you have a great time with mom, but you can't make anything up. It's been in the syllabus since day one. Sorry, Charlie, you're out of luck. We used to have co-curriculars that were allowed to be done on Wednesdays. We used to have co-curriculars only done on Wednesdays, but this caused a lot of issues. So then we recommended that in every case possible, we do it during regularly scheduled class time. Students have it written into their participant contract. They are responsible for being aware that they have to attend classes. Co-curriculars are part of that because they are classes, and that they should not be planning any personal travel during class days. That is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Just because you're not in a Japanese language class doesn't mean that Wednesday is also not a class day. There are also sometimes special co-curriculars, like I said, one-off special events, matsuri and things like that that could happen on a Wednesday, and we want to allow you to use those as co-curriculars, so students should know it's always possible that a makeup class could come on a Wednesday if the instructor has been sick or had a family emergency, or that a co-curricular that's really special, it takes a really long time and would impact other schedules, could be done on Wednesday. So these are the reasons why. These are the reasons why.
Thank
If
you.
a student has come to you and said, oh, I missed it, can I make it up? Please don't say, I'm fine with it, but you need Michelle's permission, because that looks like then we're put on different teams, but we are all on the same team. So what Michi and I will ask you then to do in terms of issuing students makeup assignments, extensions, requests for special independent activities to make up for a lost co-curricular is the first step is you have to approve it. If you want to say no, I will always be behind your saying no, because you created these courses. You know what goes into them. You know what you want students to get out of them. And I am not here to override your decisions. I'm only here to help make sure that everybody knows what the policy is and delivering courses on policy. I'm also here to back you up. It should never be mom against dad. So if you think a student has a really good reason, they've been an excellent student, they've just been struggling, but you can see the effort, you really think that they just need this to get by, even though they don't have formal accommodations, if you are willing to put in the extra effort and work for that student, I'm okay with it, as long as you are also being consistent in the types of exceptions you are making for all of the students in your class, because it will domino on you. You will have one who will ask, and they will ask an inch and take an inch and ask for a mile. And it will continue. So give every sort of accommodation, from that best place of care and, educational aspiration in your heart, with this knowledge in the back of your mind. They will grade grub, they will do it. We all know they will do it. And no matter how good a student they are, if you give something to someone, you have to offer it to everyone. So this is especially going to apply in cases where we have group assignments. Everybody has to upload their part of the assignment. Reason being, CIEE will audit courses at some point and needs to make sure that a student has actually earned their grade. If they go into a grade book and they see students have received a grade for something that they didn't turn in, they're not going to do investigative work and find out who were the other group members. Did they turn something in? They don't know what that student individually contributed to a group project. So when you are assigning group work in any capacity, please make it very clear. And I know that you do, and I know that they don't listen. By putting it in writing, in the syllabus, in the activity assignment, in the rubric, and in your announcements if you make them for students, that everybody who's a group has to upload individually. Even if it's the same exact PowerPoint, everybody's uploading their group PowerPoint. Everybody has to do it, or they get a 0 if it's late over 24 hours. They get a penalty if it's late after 1 hour up to 24 hours with CIE policy. If somebody comes to you in that case and says, no, but please, Cecile, you know we did the group work together and this one uploaded it, but the rest of us didn't, but please just let us upload it. If you have given them all of the resources to find the information that says you are responsible and you say, no, it's a 0, I will back you up and say, no, it's a 0 because she wrote it all over the syllabus in the announcements and the group is like, when this thing happens the first time, if you would like to be lenient, you can say, just this time I will say yes, but we're applying a 10% late penalty because you didn't follow instructions, even though I know you did the work. And I'll back you up on that because this is something that we did offer students for their first offenses in spring. But once they go to the next block or the next class and they do it again, it's a 0 because we know. So the student first has to ask your permission and get your approval for any form of makeup assignment or extension. And then I would like you to write to me individually, not Michi. Please write to me individually and let me know if you think the student should be granted it. And I'll write back to you with written approval and you can communicate that to the student. CIE policy says that anything that is worth more than 5% of their total course grade requires written approval from the academic director to be granted an exception for any sort of makeup, extension, etc. And that holds true. We are only tweaking the flow of this process to ask for permission because we experienced many students this spring who said one thing to you and another thing to me. And they like to play mom against dad. So we are going to remove that from the equation for summer and see how we go. And then we also had plenty of students who said, why can't our professor just decide? This is too strict. Why am I going to the academic director for this? This is overkill for something that's just worth, 10% of my grade. I don't disagree, but it's the policy. But I think the way that we're interpreting the policy, although it should be the same, and the way that we're delivering the policy leaves some room for us to do this so that you feel more in control of your course content and you are really the leader of your course. And I'm just the final hunk on the paper that you need from City Hall.
Can I ask a question?
Just one more
Okay,
thing.
sorry.
Students have come to me also in spring and have asked me for a grade conference and said, I don't feel I was fairly graded on this. I do not have the authority or the power to change your grades. I don't. That's not my job, and I wouldn't do it anyway. And I think half the time, if they ask me to take a look at an assignment, I think I would grade it a lot more harshly than you do because I think a lot of you are a lot more generous in spirit than I am. Having said that, a lot of students feel that your standards are too high. I don't think they are. I think we just see a lot of students that are academically struggling due to lots of circumstances that we talked about in our faculty colloquia this spring. But I cannot and I will not override anybody's grades. The only thing that I will do, and that Michi and I have had conferences with students this spring in terms of grades, to make exceptions, etc., is say, have you spoken to your teacher? And did you ask for an office hour appointment to do it? Because a lot of the times they will approach you right at the start of class when you're trying to get ready, or right at the end when you have another place you need to be or another class you need to start, or when you're starving, you need to eat things between your 2 classes or your 3 classes, right? That is not a good time to ask you and to approach you. So when you're giving your class orientations on the first day, please encourage students to visit you in your office hours if they're unclear on any of the grades that they have earned. We don't give grades. We don't give grades. Students earn their own grades. So we want to ensure that the onus is on students, that they understand it is their responsibility right? And if they are unclear on any of the feedback that they've been given, they are responsible for reaching out to you for a grade conference. I should not be involved in that, with only one exception. And this is when a student has had a traumatic life experience that is an extenuating circumstance that has impacted things that I am aware of, but perhaps you are not. And then you and I will conference about it before speaking with the student. Many times students won't come to you first, but they will come to a director, and that's fine. But that is the only case wherein I would ask you to maybe revisit a grade evaluation. And again, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to give you the information that you need to make a decision about how best to maybe make any potential adjustments. And I'm so sorry for having interrupted you, Daniele.
No, my question is two things. One is regarding lateness. I know that after 20 minutes, the students are, but they kept asking me in spring how many lates is equal one absence.
Mhm.
And then a lot of them pushed a lot. They were coming into class like 20 minutes late. So I did add on my syllabus that I will be taking attendance in the first 20 minutes of class. And after that, if they're marked late, it is in the syllabus, and I'm going to make them read the syllabus. But how many lates does it make one absence? That's question number one. And how flexible should we be to students who are homestaying in a different city? Xiga, Nara.
Great questions. There's no special flexibility for commuters unless a train has stopped or been delayed, because we can see digital proof of it.
Okay.
If a student is late to class on the first day, even by 40 minutes or something, please excuse it. They're trying to find their bearings. We have multiple buildings. It's their first time in Japan. It's their first time here with us. Some of them are ad dropping and might be told in the middle of a class, I got you in. We've made a swap. Just go, even though it's the end. The first day of class only, they get leeway.
Okay.
The second day of class, which is usually the first day after ad drop, you can give like a 30-minute cushion, because again, they might be in a class that they didn't go to the week before due to ad drop, right? They might not have been able to go. But after that, if they are more than 15 minutes late, if they leave more than 15 minutes early, if they come back from a break more than 15 minutes late, or leave for a break more than 15 minutes early, it is completely up to your discretion whether you would count that student as absent. And so I'm so glad you brought this up, because you said you take attendance within the first 20 minutes. That's great, because it gives those people who are usually like 2 or 3 minutes late a tiny bit of cushion to still come in without disrupting you and the rest of the class as you're taking attendance. And when you're taking attendance, you need to make sure, and we'll just look at my screen as we talk about this, that somebody is given a green check if they're there. If they're coming in 15 minutes or more late or leaving early, I want you to give them not the red X of absence, but the yellow clock of tardiness, so that you can see here also in Canvas, and you can point to this as a digital record. I know Daniele takes a fabulous handwritten note too, and I think that's a wonderful idea for those who have capacity. So that when students say like, oh, you marked me as absent, I was there every day, but I was just late, but it wasn't more than 15 minutes. If it's more than 15 minutes and you've got this yellow clock on, yes, it was, and we've got a record of it, yeah? All right, nobody should ever be left unmarked. So after ad drop, after the first class, so ad drop is this week, Friday, 3 p.m. If you've had changes made to your course, please just go in and check. If there were not a significant number of ad drops, I won't reach out to you. If you started a class with 30 kids and now you're down to 12, I'll let you know. But other than that, please go in and check. And if anybody was marked as being not there, reach out to me and ask, did this person ad drop? I didn't see them in the first class, or I noticed that they're unmarked. If they went to the other class that they are registered for, we will count them as being present, even though they didn't attend, because they went to a class only on the first Thursday, or for shorty Wednesday, Thursday. That's it. Everybody else, if they weren't there, absent. And this is where we start our record. So if you're taking attendance within the first 20 minutes and people are coming in late and you've already passed their name, that is not your responsibility. They've been marked as absent. They weren't there, red X of absence. They need to come up to you then during the break time and say, hey, I was here. I just arrived a little bit late. I know you called my name and I wasn't here, but I'm here. Then it's up to your discretion if you want to give them a late or if you want to say like, well, I'm sorry, it was more than 15 minutes. I took attendance at 9:15 and you weren't here, so it's more than 15 minutes. However you want to do it, it's up to you. But again, just please be consistent in the way that you do it and communicate to students the way that you do it in your class. Kelsey, who was teaching intercultural communication and leadership across our programs for the last couple of years, did it this way and often found that students would come up to her at the break and say, hey, I'm here. But she made it very clear to them that if you don't do that, then you're absent and it's on you. So that's something that I can definitely recommend because it worked out well. Now, in terms of how many times can they be significantly tardy before we start counting them as absent? Technically, infinitely. We just need to make sure at which point in the semester are you going to start counting those tardies as absences and how many chances are you giving a student? Because from my perspective, any class after class number 2, you should just count it as an absence if you're going to do it and remain consistent throughout the rest of the semester. And just tell the student that. Just tell them that. When you do their weekly engagement, where am I going here? When you do their weekly in-class engagement, you can just simply write that too. You know, when you go to your speed grader, you don't have to just give a score for this. And in fact, I encourage you to say a little bit of something to everybody here in the feedback and just make sure that you're also submitting this comment so that the students can see it. They won't see anything until you post this grade at the end of the week. You can just say, hey, so-and-so, you've been consistently tardy. You know, we talked about this. It's in the syllabus. Starting from class 3, every excessive tardy is going to be an absence. The reason I slammed your engagement score is because you've been excessively tardy. If you have problems about it, you know, come talk to me, make an office hour appointment. I encourage you all to ask students to make an office hour appointment with you rather than chatting before and after class about anything that is directly related to the course grades. You can chit chat about the content. You can have like personal chats, get to know the students, talk about the week. That's what the before and after class time should be for, not for talking about students' grievances or questions about the work. They need to go to your office hour for that. You're paid for that. It's written into your contract. Once a week, they need to make the appointment, just like they need to make the appointment if they need to come and speak with me or Michi. We can't just, you know, be hanging out because we're not friends. You're their instructor. They can make their own friends. I hope that answers everything.
Michelle,
Annie. Yeah.
I kind of regarding the Daniela's questions, then how to say, if students came in like if it's 9 o'clock class, like 9:16, 9:18 or something,
Mhm.
I talk to them. I'll give you the allowance for at least one because it's so close. And then this is your first time, so I will count it you as late for today.
Mhm.
But from next time, I will count you as an absent.
Mhm.
Then they said, I understand it.
That's great.
So
Yeah.
that means they are like kind of, I was, I was granted for once, but not next time.
Yeah, that's fine. I would also encourage you, and we do this as staff, to follow up those types of meetings, no matter how informal, with students in a Canvas email. So the Canvas
Okay.
inbox is the only way that students should be communicating with you. They should not have your personal email addresses and vice versa.
No.
So if I ever communicate with a student and I want you to transparently understand what we've been talking about so we can all remain on the same page without having to create an excessive amount of, inbox in and outflow. I will BCC you. If you have been BCC'd, there is no need for you to respond, but please do not reply all. Even if you want to talk to me about it, just start a separate email because students will get your email that way and then they will hound you. All communication needs to go through the inbox.
Okay.
Once you've had a little chat to a student, You can find them in your class. You can pull up their name here under students, and then you can say, like RE Tardiness. And then you can just say, hey, so and so, thank you for meeting with me today to, gain clarity on the way that I'm gonna count your absence as, due to excessive tardiness in line with CIEE policy. Per our conversation, please be reminded that moving forward, all excessive tardinesses will be counted as absences. Put it in writing, because then they cannot come back at the end of the semester with a he said, she said conversation. We need it in writing. We need it in writing.
Get it? Yeah.
So that will cover your bases. The other thing that's covering your bases about this is announcements. You also don't need to do that for every individual student, because one will come and then 3 more will come and 6 more will come. When you get to that point, no. One email only to one student is reasonable. But once we get to a certain point, then you need to make an announcement. And you go in here and then you're going to say, and Daniele is fabulous at doing this and is very well covered here. So students cannot come back and complain with any sort of foundation for argument. Look at this. She's fantastic. Gives her reminders on the deadlines and things. Students still don't do what they're told, but at least they've been given the leg up, right? And we make one and we say, RE tardiness, excessive tardiness. I have noticed that there are excessive tardinesses that are being pushed, blah, 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 blah. I just want to remind you, per our discussion and orientation on the first day, that moving forward from class 3, all excessive tardinesses will be counted as absences. This will also impact your engagement score. Questions? Office hour. Then they've all seen it.
All right.
I did add on my Canvas this time and also on the syllabus that they can only contact me on working hours. And that emailing me after working hours on the weekend is not going to be, they have to be aware that I'm not going to be answered right away. And if it is an urgent matter, they have to say it is urgent.
Yeah.
And if there is about a deadline or something they missed, they will not be excused because I did not answer the email.
Wonderful. So work-life balance is important, and I think it is something that we especially forget at the university educational level. And thank you so much for bringing this up, Daniele. And I think this is a great way to close out our conversation today. When you are putting in your syllabus the information about how to contact you, when your office hours are, things like that, I think this is a good little clause to write in about communicating with you. And I know it's not something that's added to the standard syllabus template, but I would encourage you to add something in there, just like I would encourage you to add in your own policy about AI. Please put something in there, even if it's just a line that says there is no acceptable form of use of any sort of generative AI in this class. I encourage you to write something. If you want examples, let me know. But please write something too about ways to communicate with you. Students are used to a culture of instant gratification. They have a constant sense of urgency, which I think also lends itself to student anxiety when it comes to communicating information about a course. And so they will email you at all hours unhealthily. We all remember we've been there, as undergraduates. And I think there are things that students do now too that we never would have dreamed of asking for or doing, and that's okay. But all this to say, oh, thank you so much. Daniele's put her example in the chat there. That's fabulous for anybody who wants to copy and paste that or create their own version of it. You are not working a 9 to 5 at a desk in an office, but that doesn't mean you're not working a 9 to 5. And so I hope that you will create your own boundaries for communication with students. We certainly do as staff, but please also communicate to them what an emergency looks like, because they think, oh my gosh, Canvas is not letting me submit this upload. That's an emergency. No, it's not. An emergency is, I've just been notified in the middle of writing my term paper 2 days early that grandpa has passed and I just can't see a way to finish it. I need to go home for the funeral. That's urgent. And that's an okay thing to write to you about outside of hours. They can email you outside of hours, but they should not expect any communication from you outside of class hours. That is 9 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. And for you, if you are ending class earlier than 6:30 p.m., it's whatever time you finish for the day. But please let students know when to expect emails from you and when to not. They will email you on Sunday at 4 a.m. If they had your line or your WhatsApp, they'd be texting you too. And I know because it used to be me. Please protect your personal and professional boundaries here and help us also better set the expectation for students that just because you can instantly email somebody doesn't mean that you are entitled to an instantaneous response, and that they should plan better because their lack of preparation is not our emergency when it comes down to it. What they need and what they want is not any more important than what is happening with you in your life. Students are not always the priority. The only time a student is the priority is when they are in the classroom with you, because that is their time. And if they have problems with that, I'm sure they'll write about it on the evaluation, and that can go right in the complaints bucket, which is the trash can under my desk. All right. I have kept you all for about 20 minutes over. I'm so sorry for that, but I hope that some of these Canvas walkthroughs and then some of our last minute confirmations about, ways to communicate with students, setting up these assignments, expectations, etc., has been helpful. I'm going to stop recording in just a second, and then I will share this with you also in case you want to reference it. But then also please just reach out to us if you have questions or you want to do a little one-on-one with Canvas troubleshooting. That's what we're here for. We're not just here for students. We're here for you too.